Breaking, your soulmate just made a secret decision. And it's about you. My beloved child. Something has shifted behind the silence, and the decision your soulmate has just made could change the direction of everything between you. Don't skip, because what happened was not random, casual, or made in a passing moment. This decision came after a long internal battle. After nights of replaying conversations, remembering small details, and questioning why your presence continues to mean so much even when nothing is being said aloud. Your soulmate reached a moment where avoiding the truth became harder than facing it. And what makes this so surprising is that nobody around them knows the full story yet. They have kept this decision protected, almost as if speaking about it too early might somehow change it. But what exactly did they decide? And why does it involve you so deeply? Stay till the end, because the answer begins with something they finally admitted to themselves: they cannot keep treating this connection like something ordinary. For a long time, they tried to convince themselves that time would make everything simpler. They thought distance might quiet their thoughts. They believed distractions would make your memory less powerful. Yet somehow, the opposite happened. The quieter everything became, the louder one question grew inside them: what if I lose the person I was supposed to understand before I ever found the courage to say what I truly felt? That question changed the atmosphere completely. Suddenly, moments they had ignored started returning with new meaning. Your words. Your patience. The times you stayed quiet instead of forcing answers. Even the moments when you seemed distant began to feel important. And then came the realization they could no longer dismiss: you were never simply another chapter they could close whenever things became complicated. Something about you remained unfinished in their heart. Something huge is waiting for you, because the secret decision was born from that realization. Your soulmate decided they no longer want fear, uncertainty, or other people's opinions making choices for them. But there is another layer to this, and this is where everything becomes even more unexpected. Before making that decision, they almost chose the exact opposite. There was a moment when your soulmate seriously considered stepping away completely, not because they stopped caring, but because caring had become impossible to ignore. They wondered whether disappearing quietly would be easier than admitting how deeply this connection had affected them. But then something small happened. Maybe it was a memory that returned without warning. Maybe they heard a phrase that reminded them of you. Maybe they imagined their future and suddenly noticed how empty one particular space felt. Whatever triggered it, the result was powerful. For the first time, they stopped asking, "How do I protect myself from this?" and started asking, "What happens if I never give this a real chance?" Don't skip. That question is where the secret decision truly began. They started imagining two different futures. In one, they continued pretending everything was fine, letting days become months while both of you remained trapped behind unanswered questions. In the other, they finally became honest, even if honesty meant becoming vulnerable. Which future do you think frightened them more? Surprisingly, it was the first one. The thought of looking back someday and realizing they had allowed something meaningful to disappear simply because they were afraid to speak became unbearable. So your soulmate made a private promise: they are going to stop running from what they know. They are going to find a way to bring clarity into this connection. Not through dramatic promises. Not through empty words. through something real. Something that proves their decision has weight behind it. Stay till the end, because this is where the story takes another turn. Your soulmate has not told everyone because they know certain people might question them. Someone around them may believe they should forget the past, choose what feels easier, or simply move forward without reopening anything emotional. But your soulmate has begun to understand that nobody else experienced what they experienced with you. Nobody else heard the conversations exactly as they did. Nobody else noticed those tiny moments when one look seemed to say more than an entire conversation. And nobody else has been carrying the same unanswered question inside. So why should somebody else decide what this connection deserves? That realization made them stronger. But their secret decision is still not complete, because there is one final thing they need to know before they reveal what they have chosen. And this is the part they cannot stop thinking about. If they finally step toward you, will you still recognize the person they are trying to become? Your soulmate knows that time changes people. Silence changes people. Disappointment changes people. They know they cannot simply return with the same mindset and expect everything to magically fall into place. That is why this decision is bigger than simply contacting you. It is about approaching you differently. More honestly. More clearly. With fewer games and fewer assumptions. Something huge is waiting for you, because the decision they made was not merely, "I miss this person." It was closer to, "If I get another opportunity, I cannot waste it." Think about that. Why would someone make such a private promise unless something inside them had finally become undeniable? Why would they suddenly care about doing things differently unless they had realized what could actually be lost? Don't skip, because there is still one detail that changes the meaning of everything. Your soulmate has already started preparing themselves for the possibility of a real conversation with you. In their mind, they have imagined what they would say first. They have thought about what they should explain, what they should finally admit, and which truth they can no longer hide behind silence. Yet every imagined conversation reaches the same moment, the moment when they have to look beyond their own feelings and discover yours. That is what makes them hesitate. Not because their decision is weak, but because it has become important enough to frighten them. They are wondering whether you have already moved emotionally beyond the place where they left you. They are wondering whether you would believe their sincerity. Most of all, they are wondering whether the connection they secretly chose to fight for still has a door open somewhere. Stay till the end of what comes next, because the biggest revelation has not surfaced yet. The secret decision is only the beginning. Behind it is a reason your soulmate has told absolutely no one, a reason connected to one specific realization about you that changed their entire perspective. And once that realization comes into the open, you will understand why this decision could not remain hidden forever. There is one truth your soulmate has been trying to avoid, my beloved child, and it became impossible to ignore the moment they imagined someone else becoming important in your life. Stay till the end, because this is where their secret decision becomes far more serious than simple missing, remembering, or wondering about you. Until recently, they believed they had more time. More time to understand their emotions. More time to wait for the perfect moment. More time to decide whether this connection deserved another chance. But then a thought entered their mind that completely changed the way they saw everything. what if I wait so long that the choice is no longer mine? That question stayed with them. What if someone else notices the qualities in you they kept taking for granted? What if another person gives you the consistency they were too uncertain to give? What if one day they finally become ready, only to discover that you stopped waiting for clarity long ago? Don't skip, because this did not create anger inside them. It created urgency. For the first time, they understood that meaningful connections cannot always be placed on a shelf and reopened whenever someone finally feels prepared. People grow. Hearts change. Opportunities move. And suddenly your soulmate realized that their silence had consequences. They remembered moments when you may have needed reassurance and received uncertainty instead. They remembered opportunities when one honest sentence could have changed the atmosphere between you, yet they held it back because vulnerability felt uncomfortable. But now they are seeing those moments differently. What once looked like protection now feels like hesitation. What once seemed like patience now looks dangerously close to waiting too long. Something huge is waiting for you, because this realization pushed them toward a second private decision hidden inside the first. If they approach you again, they will not come merely to test whether you still care. They want to come with clarity. They want you to understand why they disappeared emotionally, why certain things remained unsaid, and why their behavior may not always have matched what they actually felt. But can they really say everything when the moment arrives? That is the question keeping them awake inside their own thoughts. Because there is one admission they have rehearsed again and again, and every time they imagine saying it directly to you, everything suddenly becomes real. Your soulmate has begun mentally preparing for that conversation, and the words they keep returning to are surprisingly simple. I should have been clearer with you. But behind that sentence sits an entire story. Stay till the end, because what they regret most is not one dramatic event. It is all the small moments when they could have made you feel certain but allowed confusion to remain. They now understand that affection hidden too deeply can sometimes look exactly like indifference. They understand that thinking about someone every day means very little if that person never knows what those thoughts contain. And perhaps the most powerful realization of all is this. They cannot expect you to understand feelings they never properly expressed. That realization humbled them. Instead of asking why you did not read their mind, they started asking why they made everything so difficult to read in the first place. Don't skip. Something shifted after that. They stopped creating imaginary conversations where you were responsible for everything that went wrong. They began looking at themselves. They began asking uncomfortable questions. Why did they hesitate when honesty could have helped? Why did they act distant during moments when they actually wanted closeness? Why did they allow pride, timing, confusion, or outside opinions to become louder than what they knew privately? And then came the question that changed their decision again: if I truly care, what am I willing to do differently? Notice the difference. They are no longer asking what you will do first. They are asking what they must change within themselves before asking anything from you. Something huge is waiting for you, because this is where their decision becomes more than emotion. Your soulmate has decided that if another opportunity appears, they want their actions to carry the message their silence failed to deliver. They want consistency where there was uncertainty. Honesty where there were assumptions. Courage where there was hesitation. But there is still something they have not solved. They do not know what you feel today. They cannot know whether your heart is standing where it once stood, and they know they have no right to demand that it should. That uncertainty is exactly why their next move matters so much. They are considering how to open the door without forcing you through it. How to tell you the truth without placing pressure on you. How to show that they have changed without expecting instant trust. And somewhere inside that careful planning is one sentence they have not yet found the courage to say, the sentence that explains why you became impossible for them to replace emotionally. Here is what they finally understood, my beloved child, it was never only about how much they missed you, it was about who they became when they imagined losing you permanently. Don't skip, because this is the revelation they have kept hidden even from people closest to them. Your soulmate realized that your absence forced them to notice things your presence once made easy to overlook. The way you listened. The way certain conversations felt different with you. The strange comfort of knowing there was someone who could understand what they meant even when their words were imperfect. They began comparing that feeling, not necessarily with another person, but with ordinary moments in everyday life, and something kept coming up missing. They could laugh and still remember you afterward. They could stay busy and suddenly wonder what you would have said about something. They could tell themselves they were moving forward, only for one unexpected memory to bring the entire connection back into focus. Stay till the end, because that pattern finally taught them something. Forgetting you was never the decision they truly wanted to make. They wanted certainty. They wanted relief from confusion. They wanted a way to care without feeling vulnerable. But eventually they understood there was no perfect version of love, connection, or reconciliation where nobody had to risk hearing an answer they could not control. So their secret decision became stronger. They would rather discover the truth than spend years wondering what might have happened if they had finally spoken. And now comes the detail that could change everything. They have started thinking about the exact moment when they will stop keeping this decision private. Not some distant someday. They are imagining the opening sentence. They are imagining your reaction. They are wondering whether you will be surprised, quiet, cautious, or relieved. But before that moment arrives, there is something they believe they must do first, something connected to a mistake they have never fully explained. They know that approaching you without addressing it would leave the most important question unanswered. Why did they pull back when their feelings were becoming stronger? Why did they create distance at the exact moment they wanted closeness? The answer is not what you might expect. It was not because you became less important. According to everything they have finally admitted to themselves, the opposite happened. You became important enough that the possibility of losing you began influencing their choices. And now they realize those choices may have created the very distance they were trying to protect themselves from. Something huge is waiting for you, because the next truth is about the moment they first realized they had made that mistake, and what they secretly decided they must do to correct it before the opportunity disappears. The moment your soulmate finally understood their mistake came quietly, my beloved child, but what happened inside them was anything but small. There was no dramatic announcement, no crowd, no perfect sign telling them what to do. There was simply a moment when they looked back at everything between you and suddenly saw the pattern they had refused to see before. Every time the connection became deeper, they became more careful. Every time their feelings became harder to deny, they created more distance. Every time they wanted to tell you something meaningful, they questioned whether revealing too much would leave them exposed. And then the question hit them: what if the distance I created to protect myself is exactly what convinced them I didn't care? Don't skip, because that question changed the meaning of their entire past with you. They began remembering situations from your perspective instead of only their own. Imagine how confusing their silence may have seemed. Imagine how differently certain moments might have unfolded if they had simply said, "I'm overwhelmed because this matters to me." They finally understood that you could not see the private battle happening inside them. You could only see what they showed you. And what did they show? Hesitation. Mixed signals. Moments of warmth followed by unexpected distance. Their secret decisions suddenly became more specific. They do not simply want another chance to speak with you, they want to correct the misunderstanding their own behavior may have created. Something huge is waiting for you, because there is one thing they desperately want you to understand: their distance was never proof that you meant nothing. In their private reflection, they realized they pulled away because the possibility of caring deeply made everything feel more serious than they expected. But now they also understand something even more important: fear may explain behavior, but it does not erase its impact. That is why they are no longer planning to arrive with excuses. They want to arrive with accountability. They want to acknowledge what happened without demanding that you immediately forget how it made you feel. Stay till the end, because this is where their decision becomes once-in-a-lifetime important. They have begun asking themselves whether they are truly prepared to hear your side too. Not just speak. Not just confess. Listen. What if you have questions they cannot answer easily? What if you tell them their silence changed you? What if you admit that there were moments when you almost stopped believing the connection meant anything? They know those possibilities exist, yet something inside them has decided that hearing the truth is better than living forever inside assumptions. But there is another reason your soulmate has kept this decision secret, my beloved child, and this reason surprised even them when they finally recognized it. They do not want outside voices shaping the moment before it happens. In the past, they may have listened too closely to opinions that came from people who never fully understood what existed between you. Advice can sound convincing when someone is uncertain. Move on. Don't say anything. Wait for them to make the first move. Protect your pride. Those ideas may sound simple from the outside, but your soulmate began asking a powerful question: if those people are wrong, who has to live with the consequences? The answer was immediate. They do. Don't skip. That is why they have become unusually private about what they are considering. They do not want someone talking them out of courage before they even use it. They do not want another person turning a sincere conversation into a competition about who should speak first. And they certainly do not want pride deciding something their heart has spent so long trying to understand. Something huge is waiting for you, because they have reached a point where being understood by you matters more than appearing unaffected to everyone else. Think about how significant that shift is. Someone who once protected themselves through silence is now considering vulnerability. Someone who once wondered whether they should walk away is now wondering how to approach you respectfully. Someone who once waited for certainty is beginning to understand that certainty sometimes comes only after two people finally have the conversation they have both been avoiding. Stay till the end, because they have even imagined what happens if your response is not what they hope for. And surprisingly, they still want to tell the truth. Why? Because their deepest regret is no longer the possibility of rejection.